The DEA agent's hand is on Pablo Escobar's shoulder. In 5 seconds, this young man will realize his career is over. But right now, in the middle of this luxury restaurant, looking at Pablo sitting with his family, he's thinking, why isn't this man complying with the arrest warrant? What he doesn't know is that this man doesn't need an arrest warrant. Because you can't arrest Pablo Escobar. You can only make a deal with him or lose your career. The next 5 seconds will change this young agent's life. But first, let's go back to the beginning of the story. If you're enjoying this story, we post new Pablo Escobar stories every single day. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of them. Now, to understand how a young DEA agent's 5-second mistake ended a career, we need to go back to the beginning of that evening. 1988, Medellin. La Fontana restaurant was one of the city's most prestigious dining establishments. Crystal chandeliers, marble tables, live piano music. A place where only the wealthy, politicians, and the powerful ate. Pablo Escobar was there, but not for business. With his family, his wife Maria, his son Juan Pablo, and his daughter Manuela. An ordinary family dinner. Pablo wore a suit, his hair neatly combed. In appearance, a normal businessman. They were talking at the table. Juan Pablo was discussing school. Manuela was showing off her new toy doll. Pablo was laughing, touching his wife's hand. These moments were precious to him. Because outside, Pablo Escobar might be the drug lord, the leader of the Medellin cartel. But here, at this table, he was just a father, a husband. The restaurant's other customers recognized Pablo. Some bowed their heads respectfully. Some avoided eye contact. Everyone knew. When Pablo Escobar is here, you stay quiet and respectful. But 2 people in the restaurant didn't know this. 2 young DEA agents, newly assigned to Colombia. One was 28 years old, the other 26. Their names were David Martinez and Tom Bradley. David was experienced, at least compared to Tom. He'd started field work 6 months ago. Tom had only been in Medellin for 3 weeks. They sat in the restaurant in civilian clothes, trying to blend in. But Tom looked tense. He was watching every customer, analyzing every movement. Then he saw Pablo's table. "David," he whispered. "That man looks like Pablo Escobar." David turned and looked, his eyebrows raised. "Because that is Pablo Escobar." Tom's eyes widened. "What? Are you kidding? Here? Out in the open?" "Yes," David said calmly. "Having dinner with his family. Now we're going to do what we were taught. Nothing. Just observe, take notes, report. Don't interfere." But Tom wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on Pablo. This was his opportunity, the opportunity of his lifetime. The world's most wanted criminal was sitting 10 meters away. "But we have arrest authority," Tom said. "They told us before we started. There was a name list. Pablo Escobar was at the top." David nodded. "Yes, we have authority on paper. But in reality, Tom, this isn't America. This is Medellin, Pablo's city. If we were going to arrest him, we'd need 50 men, 10 vehicles, helicopter support. And we still wouldn't succeed. Now just sit and..." Tom stood up. David's face went white. "Tom, no, sit back down." But Tom didn't listen. He walked toward Pablo's table in strides. His heartbeat had accelerated. His hands were sweating. But he told himself, "You're a DEA agent. Do your job." Pablo's bodyguards noticed immediately. 2 men in different corners of the restaurant. Their hands went inside their jackets. Their eyes tracked Tom. But they wouldn't move unless Pablo gave the signal. Tom approached the table. Pablo was still talking with his son. Laughing, he hadn't noticed Tom, or he had noticed but didn't care. Tom came to the side of the table, stopped, and waited. Pablo continued talking. 5 seconds passed. 10 seconds. Tom's patience ran out. He reached out and touched Pablo's shoulder. The restaurant froze. Live music was playing, but it was as if the sound cut out. Conversations at other tables stopped. Everyone turned and looked. Pablo slowly turned his head, looked at Tom. His eyes were calm but deep, sharp. Tom felt the weight of that gaze. He hesitated for the first time. "Yes," Pablo said, his voice low, almost a whisper. Tom gathered his voice. "Pablo Escobar, I'm a DEA agent. We have arrest authority for you. Please come with us." A slight smile appeared on Pablo's face, not bitter, amused, as if a child had made a bad joke. "Arrest authority?" Pablo said. "Can I see it?" Tom hesitated. He had authority, but the document wasn't with him. He was on civilian duty. "I don't have it with me right now, but—" Pablo raised his hand. Tom fell silent. "So," Pablo said slowly, "you touched my shoulder in front of my family, said you have arrest authority, but you have no document to show. Is that correct?" Tom swallowed. "I have authority. If you don't believe me, do I believe you?" Pablo kept his smile. "Young man, I believe you. I'm sure you have authority, on paper. But let me ask you a question. How many guards do I have here?" Tom looked around. He saw 2 men, maybe 3. "2, maybe 3, he said. Pablo nodded. "Wrong. 7. 2 in the restaurant kitchen, 2 in the car outside, 1 behind your friend sitting at your table, and you're currently standing right next to a waiter who works for me." Tom looked behind him. The waiter was standing smiling, but his eyes were cold. Pablo continued. "Now, let's say you try to arrest me. What do you think will happen? Will you and your friend win, or my 7 men? And there are 40 civilians in this restaurant. If a confrontation breaks out, who will be responsible for their safety?" Tom's mouth was dry. He couldn't answer. Pablo leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping even lower. "But that's not the real issue. The real issue is you're currently interrupting my dinner with my family. My daughter is scared. Now, do you see?" Tom looked at little Manuela. The girl had hidden behind her father, her eyes filled with fear. Pablo fixed his eyes on Tom. "Disturbing my family's peace is an unforgivable mistake for me. But you're young, inexperienced. So I'm going to teach you a lesson. Go back to your table, finish your meal, and never approach my family again." Tom froze. He didn't know what to do. The coldness in Pablo's eyes wasn't a threat. It was a fact. Pablo raised his hand and snapped his fingers. The waiter came immediately. Pablo whispered something to him. The waiter nodded and left. "Your meal is on my tab," Pablo said to Tom. "Now go." Tom slowly turned back and walked to his table. His legs were shaking. David had his head in both hands. "What did you do, Tom?" "What did you do?" he whispered. Tom sat down. His heart felt like it would burst. I just... But the words didn't come. 10 minutes later, Pablo left the restaurant with his family. As he left, he passed by Tom's table. He didn't stop, didn't even look. But the message was clear. You're not important. The next morning, Tom and David's supervisor received a phone call. The caller was DEA headquarters in Washington. "Agent Tom Bradley is immediately removed from duty. Pulled from the field. Immediate transfer to Washington." The supervisor was surprised. "Why? What happened?" "Diplomatic violation. No details. just execute. Tom left Colombia 3 days later. He never returned to the field, and he spent the rest of his career at a desk, writing reports. Pablo Escobar never used an arrest warrant, never made a threat. He just made one phone call. Maybe to someone in Washington, maybe to a politician. No one knows for sure. But the result was clear. 5 seconds, one shoulder touch, and the end of a career. Because that night, Pablo taught Tom the most important lesson. Real power doesn't come from your rank, doesn't come from your authority. Real power comes from respect, and respect is earned, not demanded. Tom Bradley learned that lesson too late, and he spent the rest of his life thinking about those 5 seconds of mistake.